welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here. Check out the series. You know the drill. Like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists. And speaking of great artists, Tamara Taylor is here. Hello.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to meet you and talk about what all's going on. Season 6, the final season of Snowfall, about to happen. Congratulations on this little run right here. I mean, I know you're coming in on this final season. What is that experience different? Because obviously, and I know this is probably a question you get a lot with this one, but you know, when you have a cast that's been around with each other for so long, what is it being the new person in sort of this scenario?
It's kind of like the first day of school. It's a little unnerving, you're kind of you know, dropping into an already established gang. Thankfully, this cast was so welcoming and so lovely, and there wasn't a moment I felt uncomfortable. So, but the pre-nerves, the pre-jitters were real.
The first day of school, I'm imagining every movie that shows someone coming into school and then they have to walk you around the quad to show you all the cliques and which each is that orientation, is that part of it, like, all right, these are the jocks over here? And
exactly. Well, it's funny because I think the first time I met the whole gang, we did an in-person table read. And since COVID, I don't think I've been to a table read, so it was kind of wild. And I'm masked up, everybody else is not, because they've already gone through whatever protocol they've gone through. And they were mid script because I wasn't in the first episode. And it was just incredible to sort of watch everybody go. Probably one of the most talented casts I've ever worked with. So I got to sit and kind of ease into the water gently, watch them do their thing. And of course, then, I was introduced to everyone, which was lovely. And Andrea and, oh gosh, I can't remember Uncle Jerome's real name. I actually don't think I can pronounce his real name. They were sitting in front of me and I had to just go, "You are my favorite characters on the show."
it's also, so keeping up with the show is one thing, knowing who the characters are and where they come from. When you get your character, how much then do you put in it? Because there's the whole idea, like, oh, I need to come up with a backstory for this person, but knowing these people have existed for so long, I mean, is that part of your process?
Well, it was helpful that I was already a fan of the show, but it's funny, at a certain point I dropped off. So I just, as soon as I, got the job, I went back and watched, previous episodes and was like, okay, I know everyone. I know I'm current on the story. And they also introduced my character, Veronique's mom, in the last season. She talked about her a little bit. So that gave me a little bit of insight into their very strained relationship. And then Dave Andron, one of the creators, also kind of let me know what the backstory of their relationship was, which is kind of brutal. Left her daughter in prison, grift gone wrong. She ran, not the mother of the year.
It still seems like a fun character to play, though. I mean, there's so much, I don't know. What I'm getting at is, as you said before, you get to put on different wigs, you get to play little different characters, within this character and everything. Like everybody else seems to have their sort of established personality, and it's almost like they gave you something like, okay, this one's a bit magical, though.
It was so great. It really was amazing because I got to drop in, and the one thing that I was told is that she's unshakable. She's seen a lot, so Franklin doesn't freak her out. And to go toe to toe with Franklin in this season, where he is like, he's flexing, he's definitely got power. And it was really fun to sort of explore all of that, explore the different languages that I had to learn. That was crazy. And literally my first day on set was speaking Mandarin and French and English while playing Pai Gow, a game that I've never played in my life. So it's like, yes.
Just right in the deep end, right
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh yeah. Here you go.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about the power and the power struggles that happen on this show too, and the context of the era. Here we are looking at the '80s,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much again, because now we're so established, how much of that goes into what you're thinking about here too, because there is a legacy that this show eventually represents, and there's a legacy that's it's happening
Yeah.
while the show is going on. When you're talking about context and history and things like that. I don't know if you can speak to it, or even if you all talk about it, but where do we leave off? What is the legacy? Because when I look at it, obviously, these are all issues that it didn't like they didn't stop in the 80s.
It
These are
didn't
all
go
people that
away.
are still
Didn't go
represented
away.
today.
Yeah, well, it's interesting in terms of John Singleton's legacy, which is talked about a lot. This was this was a real I think elegant bookend to his incredible career, because he started out with Boys in the Hood, and that was his, like, homage to his hometown, and he ended with an homage to his hometown, gone sideways, but still, the love affair that he has with this city is so clear.
Yeah, and it's an incredible story that just kind of unfolds throughout it. And
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by music, so of course my eye is on that, or my ear, I guess, is on that the whole time too, because you get such a great opportunity when you're sort of playing around in specific eras, and
It's so great. It's so good. I mean, I'm just reminded, I'm thrown right back into the 80s, which is amazing. It's just like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
mm.
You
Yeah.
know?
So okay, let's talk about you in the '80s. Like, what were you listening to? What were your groups?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was I sort of was all over the map. I was listening to Public Enemy, and uh I loved all, like, hip hop was my favorite, but it was also the beginning, so it was like
Mhm.
Run DMC, and it was super cool. And then I was also listening to, like, Paul Simon and Skinny Puppy, and like all of these weird. I was also Goth Girl, Susie and the Banshees. I was all over the place. Oh, and Tears for Fears. There we go.
One of my
Were they
all-time favorites
80s
right
though,
there.
or were they
Yeah.
90s?
No, no,
They
Tears for Fears are
were
80s. In fact, I've said this before that it was one of the biggest songs of all time, but I think Everybody Wants to Rule the World is the quintessential 80s song. Like it says it all.
Oh, the minute you hear those chords, you're just
Mm.
like, I know exactly where I was the first time I heard this song.
Yeah. I saw a video of you dressed as Ramones, which is sort of, I mean, they did their 80s stuff too, right? Was that a Halloween thing that I saw?
Yes. I can't believe I love that you saw that. Oh man. And I was so bummed that, like, I was nervous about doing our video, because we did like two, my best friend in the world loves a Halloween moment. So I don't know if you went back. We also did Cheech and Chong the year before.
Nice.
And I think I nailed that a little better than Joey, but it's like, I think I said the lyrics wrong. Damn it. We've only got one video. So it was only one try.
It's a fun take. I didn't even notice that the lyrics were wrong, so you had me fooled on that at least. I wasn't watching
Thank
that
you.
close.
I'm
Yeah,
such
so
a
it's
snob about that stuff. I was like, the people who are looking are gonna know.
all a good fun right there. And Pinhead, by the way, that's not an obvious song, so I think there's a lot of bonus points,
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, thank you so much.
um, I don't even know how I pull back to this show coming from off the Ramones like that, but
Yeah.
I will say I was thinking of specific moments too, because episode what did I write down here, 5, the Ebony and Ivory, and it's
Oh yeah.
you, and it's the older guy, and here you
John.
are, right, and you're just like, what an intense and beautiful scene that is at the same time. And I don't really have a specific question, but I would just love to hear
Yeah.
about the sort of that rapport, that back and forth that you all had going there, because here we think we have someone who might be bad or evil, and it just being this touching moment that sort of doesn't end in any great way whatsoever.
To say the least. It's funny because someone described it as truth, acting truth within the grift. It was bizarre that there was it was a grift for sure. I mean,
Sure.
we knew what I was doing, but that there was a sweetness and an honesty that managed to creep out of there, as just two parents admitting that they maybe screwed up,
Hmm.
and weren't the best. And if they had it to do over, they might change a few things.
It does get to a point where you start to question, is she acting anymore?
I'm
How
so glad. I'm so
yeah.
glad.
Yeah, just those little moments. And like I said, I think that's what makes the show one of the the brilliant ones out there, is that there's so many layers and those moments like that that not everybody can pull off, and you all do it so well.
Oh, thank you. Well, I was just so grateful to be to drop into such a badass cast and just keep up. I was just like, thank you. And like don 5 million wigs and
Right.
personas. It was fun.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, like, I called this character a little magical. Like, all I kept thinking was they could really do a spin-off with this one. Like, not every character gets, but like, I think about, just here you have, Master of Disguise and all the
Mhm.
stories that could come along with it. Do you have any say in that? Can you push for that?
And when we get off of this Zoom, I think that I'm going to call Dave Andron immediately and let him know because I think it's a great idea. Oh, my kingdom, to be able to play her again, or my queendom. She was one of my favorite characters of all time. I would love to reprise that role.
Yeah. And especially coming off of Diary of a Spy and just these ideas of
Yeah.
I think you might have said in another interview, it's these opportunities to even go darker that maybe you haven't.
Yeah, it's been a nice journey in terms of, you know, what's come along my across my path. I think maybe it's just because I'm putting out there that I want to be able to dig in a little deeper and go a little darker because Bones was so much fun.
Hmm.
And it was like those darn kids. Like every episode, I was like, "Oh, those darn kids," which, yeah, I think Hart Hansen wrote created a brilliant show because the relationships were interesting,
Hmm.
and then we just were kind of solving these gruesome grisly crimes while having these relationships. But because they were standalones, you know you never got to dig as deep as one might want after a decade. So it's nice to be able to sort of dive in the deep end. I'd
Yeah.
like to go even darker.
I want to see what that looks like too. But see, it's also interesting because you tend, well, I didn't say you tend, but you have played several characters in the past that one version of it seems to do with legal. Either it's on the bone side of things, or it's the spy
Yeah.
side of things, or you know I would ask what draws you to that, and I only, will preface that question with saying I was doing an interview the other day with the actor Charles Dance, and we were talking about a lot of the stuff
Love
that he
him.
gets right for. He goes,
Yeah.
sometimes they find out you're good at something, and that's what they start throwing your way over and over. Is that what it is?
I would say absolutely. It's funny. Like you don't realize when you start out, you hear of being pigeonholed and you're just, wet behind the ears and you just want to work. And that means doing anything that they give you well, if you can. So I, laughed and, my agents and I were like, doctor, lawyer, cop, forever. So it's been nice to kind of break out of that a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of supernatural every now and then in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, a little bit of supernatural. Well, I think after Bones, we actively, I'm sure Charles was saying the same thing. What comes to you is often what you've already done.
Hmm.
That's what they'll ask you to do. And so we kind of said no to many things and sort of consciously steered me in a different direction.
Yeah. Where would you want to go? I mean, you talk about going darker. Is there a genre that you'd like to play more in right now?
Man, well, I love graphic novels
Hmm.
and I love kung fu. So I don't know if this is darker, but it's something I've never done before. I would love to kind of uh do some bizarre sort of there's a graphic novel called Manhunter, and it's actually a few of the volumes are written by a friend of mine, and he turned Manhunter into a woman. And Manhunter, she's a bit rough around the edges, plays a lawyer by day, and if she doesn't get the justice that she seeks by day, she basically takes to the streets vigilante style, and goes for it. And she's just kind of a bit of a mess, a little bit Jennifer Jonesy, in that she's a bourbon drinking, cigarette smoking, not necessarily the superhero you'd expect.
Those are the best kinds.
Yeah.
They're right there. The graphic novel is interesting. That's something I always thought I should spend more time in. only have a few. Like Neil Gaiman, I've got a
I
couple
was
of
gonna
his.
say you have the Sandman.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Neverwhere, and the Graveyard Book. That was one of my favorites. He did it. But
Yeah.
that's been the thing. I was never a comic book person per se, and that seemed different. But the graphic novel really did pique my interest. And where did that come from for you?
I think it came from my best friend, Cree Summer. She just is like the last comic book geek. So I've dipped my toe in. She is an absolute she's fully immersed.
Yeah.
So she'll just kind of suggest things like I'm looking up at my Alan Moore is one of my favorite graphic novelists. He's amazing and he's dark,
Yeah. I'll take the
Um,
recommendation.
Yes, anything Alan Moore. Tom Strong is great. He wrote The Watchmen, which was my first graphic novel that I ever read.
Yeah. All right. I like
Yeah.
the homework. I'll dive into that.
All right. All right.
Well, I'll flip the question really quick too. From what you would like to do to after having played as many characters as you have played multiple times. I know you've been very fortunate to play within seasons. Are there ones you'd want to return to? I mean, I assume things like Bones is that book is kind of closed right now, but are there other ones you're like, oh, it'd be a lot of fun to return to that though?
I had so much fun with October Faction, which was the Netflix monster killer couple.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would have loved to do. I'd love to see more of them because there was more story to tell, and she was a funny. She not funny. She was a fun character to inhabit. And I didn't have near enough time to train so that I could be the badass monster killer that I wanted to be. So I'd say I'd love to go back there.
Yeah. Hearing people say there was more story to tell seems like the mantra of our era right now.
Right?
Shows the rug is just pulled out all the time.
Woo! I wonder what that is. It's an interesting time. Like a
Yeah.
lot of things are being canceled. I don't know whether we have an embarrassment of riches right now. There's just so much television and so much that people aren't really getting a fair shake, or shows aren't getting a fair shake, it feels like.
Yeah. That's got to be, I don't know, it's got to be on your mind, on someone's mind, as you go into a project, because if you're signing on and committing to a character, I mean, it's like, got to be like, what if we don't get to finish the story though?
It's very strange walking in. We had to shoot alternate ends of the first season of October Faction because we didn't know if we get picked up,
Hmm.
the monster banging in the basement will come out and we have all our guns drawn and we're ready to go. And in the other one, you just see us all going about our business and we hear like a little knock from the basement, but it's unresolved. Like we had to do both just in case. And unfortunately, we had to go for the latter.
At least you got that opportunity to give some kind of closure though. I mean, I'm sure you've got them too. Our favorite shows that are just like, nope, that's
Bye.
it.
Yeah. Pack up your stuff. Yeah, it's weird. And they leave on such a cliffhanger because they assume they're coming back. Yeah, I've had that. That's not fun.
I can't imagine. So, well, at least, again, being part of Snowfall, there is closure here, and it's been such a
Yes.
great season and such a great series. Tamara, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. Again, it's been so great to meet you on here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
I adore you. You're such a lovely interview. This was awesome.
and thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. all three of them. The address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.